Hey everybody, Yuri here, and for today's How Do You Do That, we have a very special guest, location sound mixer Kally Williams, where she and I will be talking about lavalier microphones like this TwinPlex TL48 and how to use them. Let's have some fun. So, Kally, thank you for joining us today.
Of course, happy to be here.
And my first question is, how did you get into location audio mixing?
I would say getting into it just came from being passionate about filmmaking. My sister and I were always into making films together as kids, which grew into careers. And it wasn't until moving to Los Angeles in 2014 that I really kind of got to know the sound community and started learning about the gear. And that's where the passion started developing.
That's awesome. So when it comes to location audio, can you walk us through what's in like a typical rig for you when you go out on a gig?
Yeah, of course, every project is different depending on what type of project that it is, and usually requires. I mean, I'm kind of still like a bag mixer if I am on the job. So the bag includes mixer, recorder, however many channels of wireless, and all the fun stuff that you need for outputs and time code and whatever the day requires.
Got it. And so it's always wireless and you're always running timecode?
No, but typically yes.
Got
But
it.
every job is different. Some doesn't have time code. Some's all booms, and then you don't have to worry about wireless and frequencies and all that fun stuff. But I like wireless, so
Got it. So that actually takes me to my next question is we all know that when you're recording on location, you have a boom mic and use lavaliers.
yes.
Uh, so do you, when you mix, because you do the location mix as well, how much of it
hmm
ends up usually being boom and how much of it ends up being lavaliers?
Well, on set, I can say what I put into my mix, which typically they probably don't use when it goes into the final post, but sometimes they do, sometimes they rely on you to actually make the mix. But um the boom is primary. It always will be if it sounds the best. In like in interview settings, we typically just mic them as backup. And if they lean forward and then you don't have that shotgun sound anymore, or the whatever microphone it is, then you want to be able to add that lav mic in place of that so that it still sounds, not like they're moving around and all
Mhm.
around the place.
Got it. So in the location worlds, the lavaliers tend to be more of an insurance policy until the
It
post-production.
can be, but
Mhm.
also if you're mixing a scene and say there's three or more characters, and if you only have one boom, you're never going to like cover them all. So it's all about picking and choosing what best captures that moment, like with who you can get with the boom, and then hopefully the person that's not really in booming distance sounds good on the mic, and then you just throw that into the mix and call it a day with those isolated channels.
Great. All right, so let's talk about lavaliers. When you use lavs, what do you look for as far as, this is a high quality lavalier mic?
Right. I think, I mean, it's easy to go with that. You want something as small as it can be because you're going to hide it, but you want the quality as well. So, what gives you that as far as being easy to hide and still having the quality that you want, especially when you are throwing it into mixes to be able to match the boom sounds and whatnot. And
Mhm.
I think we are at a good place in the location world where we have so many options, and it's a good time to get into microphones.
So when you lav somebody up, is there an ideal distance that you go for?
Usually, around the center chest area.
Mhm.
And but then again, everything is different because it's not like they come to the sound person was like, hey, like we're calling you first, like what type of wardrobe should we put on this actor so that they can get the best sound? Like it's usually being thrown into it. I mean, if you're lucky, you'll get like a prep day and be able to figure out all that stuff. But
Mhm.
mostly, the skill is being able to see the situation and think of the best way to handle it in the moment.
Got it. So are definitely situations where you have to mic somebody up much closer to their mouth, for example, or much further away than you would like?
Yes, depending on the wardrobe, because maybe where you want it, it's gonna sound too like fabricy or noisy. And then if you move it a little bit higher, as long as like they don't have a very like throaty voice sound, then you get away with it.
Hmm. If you were talking to somebody that's using it either for the first time or has limited practice using lavaliers, what would be your like do's and don'ts for somebody just starting out?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of things that comes with experience, but we all have to start out somewhere.
Hmm.
The first thing is just to go out and try things and don't be afraid to come back. Like if you do try something out and then you listen to it and it's not giving you the sound, but you think of another idea that might sound better, like that's where you get the experience, is being able to hear something and you're not satisfied with it and try to think of a way to make it at least sound better.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, especially on those, if you're starting out, I assume it's more of like a smaller shoot, like you definitely have more of the freeway to go in and make adjustments. And that's something also that comes in with experience, is when you can and can't go in for that.
So let's talk some different clothing scenarios and what you would do with the
Hmm.
lav miking. All right. So let's start with kind of the standard obvious choice of somebody wearing a suit and tie. Where would you put the lavalier? Would you hide it? How would you hide it?
First choice would be in the knot of the tie, because if you can, it's like just very minimum, like exposed, and it sounds clean. Like you don't hear any like rustle that you might get from the button up shirt that will also have a tie over it. Or, if you put it in like this section, maybe it might sound good. Like you just never know until you get to it.
What about t-shirts? How would you lav somebody wearing
T-shirts.
a t-shirt?
Yeah, t-shirts are pretty standard. If they're fine with it, then I would probably like top stick it to the skin. And
Hmm.
then especially that's why I like these like bubble bee things. And then it comes with the little it just creates separation then and there, so that you're not hearing like the t-shirt hit against the microphone.
Great. Okay. What about a situation where somebody's wearing like a dress or something a little bit more, for lack of a better term, revealing, and you can't really hide the lavalier in the obvious.
Right. Well, hopefully there is a little bit of like space where you can either tape it directly to the center chest or on the dress itself. And luckily there's microphones are just like so thin these days, like as far as wires. So you can even run that around like
Mhm.
on the dress and then tape it directly to that.
Great.
Those aren't like too terrifying when they come out as far as like miking situations.
Got it. Okay, the one that would be terrifying to me is because you've worked on Survivor and other
Yes.
reality TV, right? What if somebody's not wearing a shirt?
On a show like that, they always have on like the buff, like the survivor buff. And the mics are put in that if they're shirtless or, minimum clothing. But they're always mic'd on the challenges,
Got
not
it.
so much if they're in reality mode.
Got it. So, in a situation where somebody would be shirtless, how would you
Hmm.
lave them up?
Well, I guess that's a thing that should be addressed with production first.
Mhm.
Reality shows are a little more forgiving in that they'll allow something like a necklace microphone,
Uh-huh.
either something you make, or I know some brands used to have like a necklace microphone situation already made. Because I guess if it's in a movie, I mean, you better, yeah, if it's in a movie, you better hope that the boom can get it, because that's about it. I mean,
Got
if they're wearing a hat, you can find a way to make that, as far as like, as long as you can't see it. Um, so it all just depends on the situation and if they give you some alternatives, wardrobe can be your friend.
got it.
And
So now
sometimes it's not.
so
Yeah.
now so now when I watch one of these shows, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on who's wearing necklaces and hats because that'll
Oh,
that'll be the
right.
tell.
I mean, when you watch reality, that's where you can really see like how they decided to tackle on that. And you can usually spot it.
Mhm.
They're a little more forgiving. And because I think the thing I like about doing reality shows is that sound is the story. Like you're literally giving it to the producers. Like sound goes around and we find the story and provide it for people.
Hmm.
So you have to have it. It's not like a thing where they're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. So they find a way to mic everybody up.
That's great. How do you deal with different fabrics?
Um, usually, hopefully, you get prep time to go ahead and work all that, but a lot of times you don't. So you're handed what you get. And the worst is when you get those like starchy shirts and you could just hear that and it sounds awful. And going back to like this bumblebee thing, hopefully, like it creates some separation, but it definitely doesn't
Mhm.
always work. And then some people make like little moleskin sandwiches and things like that, or Joe's sticky stuff that can be
Mhm.
helpful just to have the most minimal movement as far as like the clothing noise. Um, and those situations where you find the situations where you find like the ideal spot and you're able to like almost expose the mic, especially if it's, like a black wardrobe or tan, anything that matches like the microphone, then maybe you can get away with exposing it a little. And then
Mhm. And do you have a collection of different colored lavaliers just for that kind of scenario?
I wish I did, but I do not. Black, tan, and maybe white.
Mhm.
That's, yeah, but I know some people like paint the capsules to match the wardrobe,
Yep.
especially when you buy those microphones from Broadway. They usually come with some like funky color on the end
Right.
because that's, yeah. I mean, I think hopefully there's a solution to every wardrobe, but the thing about location sound is you're not really given the time to like properly figure that out.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's on the spot and you have less than 5 minutes and you can keep going in and making adjustments. But I mean, as a sound person, you want to just get it right the first time and have it sound amazing, but it's not realistic.
So what are some of your favorites, like lavalier and even body pack hiding techniques that you can share with our audience?
I really like, I mean, as far as like hiding mics and then
Mhm.
also keeping them secure, because yeah, everybody's fear is when the actor stands up and then you just see like the lav mic hanging from the wardrobe or whatever. That's where like it comes in handy to have like the waist, thigh, ankle straps.
Mhm.
But I've really been liking these Ursa pouches, which is like kind of the resort that just can handle any situation. Because it's, as you can see, it clips on like this rather, and then which kind of gets stuck in the wardrobe almost, and you can clip that to anywhere. Because sometimes you get some clothing and you're like, this has nothing to clip it to. So this makes anything clippable basically, and secured. Like you don't have to worry about it coming off ever.
Um, do you do you have any kind of DIY things that you've had to kind of MacGyver to make something to make a lav situation work?
I do have one example that's like pretty standard or similar in like reality type shoots, or like if there's like a lot of sweat involved, the tape comes off.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's it.
so it's more so used in reality, but can use for any situation. And it's just like you have the next care taped onto it with the safety pin.
Mhm.
So then you just put that on the clothes. You don't have to worry about the tape falling off because that's not a thing in this situation. Especially if there's water or sweat involved, then it holds up.
Most ridiculous lav miking that you had to do.
I will say last year that there was an upcoming show that or TV special that I was gonna boom up on. And also kind of knew is that all of the actors were drag queens.
Mhm.
So I was gearing up to be like, okay, this is probably gonna be some interesting like miking situations we might have. But it was just surprising. Like, of course, those like wardrobes are like so nicely made, and then they actually give a lot of spacing for mic and for hiding the mic pack. So I actually recommend that.
So if you're going into lav miking for the first time, find yourself a good drag show because the wardrobe will work in your favor.
Most likely, yes.
So you've been using Shure TwinPlex microphones for a significant amount of time. Can you tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
your experience with them?
Yes. I've been used to the other brands out there, but I was interested in trying the Shure, especially with the Shure transmitters, which they pair very well together. So I also, 1 second. With the TwinPlex, I like the little accessory case if you get that it comes with, because yes, I think there is a solution for like almost anything in this. So that's kind of cool. Before Bumblebee came out with the rubber mount, well, I still use it, but I do like the one that Shure has because it was a way of getting that same like situation before they even made one for it, because it's a newer microphone. I will say, if there's something I'm looking of that I want to try in the future, it would be the shotgun microphone, because I don't think many people know that Shure has one, and I would love to see how it like pairs with the lav mics.
We have
because you would think they would be similar.
Yeah, and we have a fantastic line of shotgun microphones. So
right,
to be continued. What is your typical go-to miking technique for recording somebody in a car?
I actually love a good plant microphone, such as this. And I'm pretty sure this is a Shure microphone.
Cool.
Yeah. So plant microphones are your friends. Sometimes you can plant the shotgun microphone, and I've had good luck with like getting the wireless lav in cars. As far as you get it, as long as you get it away from the seatbelt, then it's pretty solid, you know?
Very nice. So Kally, thanks so much for joining us and for sharing all of your knowledge. And we hope to hear from you again soon about all the cool stuff that you're doing.
Of course. I appreciate you having me on.